Georgie Henley, welcome to An Actor's Affairs. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
Good. I'm so much better now I'm talking to you. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I'm such a big fan of yours. I mean,
Oh,
I feel
it's
like
lovely to be
I,
on.
I got to watch you grow up through cinema, which is such a rare thing to be able to get in this life. And that must have been so cool, getting a
Yeah,
role, Narnia so young and growing up in those films. It was a,
yeah.
a trilogy, right? I mean,
A
essentially, yeah.
trilogy. Yeah. So I started so young. I think I auditioned my first audition. I was 7.
Well, I can't
Um,
even imagine.
yeah.
I don't even think I could like have the confidence to talk on my crush in kindergarten and when I was 7, let alone major to
Me
get a major.
neither. That's the funniest thing. I don't even think that I was like I don't know. I do think I was quite an introverted child in some ways, but yeah, when I meet other 7-year-olds now, I'm just like, oh my God.
But you're also an academic, going to Cambridge, and you did your own film Tide, and there's so many other Spanish princess playing Meg Tudor. I'm I don't want to say I'm a huge history guy because someone's going to ask me a question and then I'm not going to get it right, but I've definitely done my history reading. So, but let's start from the beginning. You grew up in the UK, obviously.
Yeah, I grew up in the north of the UK, so in Yorkshire, West Yorkshire. So actually was kind of, I mean, actually, I think a lot of young actors, they live in London, and that's
Yeah.
how they have their way in, because London is kind of the hub of it. But I was out, I live in a small town. It's like Wuthering Heights territory. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's very quiet, super quiet.
What are your parents artists?
No, well, yeah, maybe in their spare time. No, my dad is a lawyer. My mom was a history teacher. She now does works in like property. So yeah, no real kind of art connection with
Interesting.
family. But my dad is an amazing musician. My dad,
Oh, so
like,
definitely an artist.
yeah, so
Yeah.
taught himself the guitar when he was tiny, and like, so music's always been a big deal in our household.
Did you play?
A little bit. Not, I mean, nothing to brag about.
Yeah.
Nothing that I would ever show anybody. But
Well,
yeah,
maybe one day at karaoke, I'll see how you do.
oh,
Yeah.
karaoke, 100%. I am a karaoke machine, 100%.
And you have a few siblings, right?
Yeah, I have 2 older sisters, and my oldest sister, Rachel, is an actress, and she played the older version of me at the end of the first Narnia movie, because
Wow.
we do look very similar. And she turned up on set like 2 months in when my family came to visit me for the first time, and the producers were just like, Eureka, can you come to costume fitting?
We've been in America looking for
Yeah.
this girl, and we didn't even think to
Yeah.
look at home.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then my other sister, she works for the civil servants here in the UK. So, but I think she has the best comic timing out of all of us. It's funny because she's the one who is an actress. She's, yeah, amazing timing.
So then talk to me. How did, like, obviously, I'm an actor as well. And when I was younger, I got involved in, like, I don't know, I guess you would call it children's theater. Were you doing the
Yeah.
same thing?
Yeah, so we had a like a theater group in my town called Upstagers, and you had the barn. It all happened in this amazing converted like barn, but it was called the barn.
Wow.
And I used to go every week just after school, and that was kind of that was my safe place. That was my happy place. I also didn't have like the easiest time at school. I didn't really fit in massively, so
Yeah.
for me it was really awesome to like be with the theater kids and like
So
play.
you connected with them more than you did with the people at your school.
Yeah, and I also think that even just like it really is just playing at that age. When you're
Yeah.
that little, you're just like learning about improvising, and that's a funny little game. And it's a lot of games, and I was just obsessed with it. And my older sister, she did acting, singing, and dancing, so I wanted to do acting, singing, and dancing. So
Of
it was
course.
kind of, yeah, but that was really it. Just and then we one day, the casting director for Narnia, they were looking like all over the world. They were looking all over the UK, and
I'm curious, at this point, being at this point, you're like what, 5, 6?
7. Yeah,
7.
7.
So
Yeah.
had you read the books at this point? Did you know of that?
Yeah, so we when I was 6, the book that we had studied in class had been The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Same. That was
So,
what I
yeah,
did when I was 6 too.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that was the thing where you would all sit around in a circle and
And
the
the
teacher,
librarian would
yeah,
read.
and you
Yeah.
read, well, yeah. So when I actually got the job, they gave us iPods as like it was like a welcome gift, which was so sweet. And they put the other books, the audio books, on the
Ah.
iPods, so I listened to them. But apart from that, yeah, I'd read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
And
Yeah.
how is that transition to go from, being in this like cool theater school or, after school program
Yeah.
it, to then booking probably, like the equivalent of Disney's Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know what I was auditioning for to begin with. I thought it was for like a pantomime, which is this thing we have in the UK. It's like, it happens every Christmas. It's like people dress up and it's a weird show that we have in the UK. I didn't even know what it was. They had a fake name for it. I just had to sit and talk about what I'd had for breakfast,
Yeah.
what book I was reading, and then a few other questions. And then one of the questions they asked us was, if you were stuck on a desert island with all your family, which family member would you eat first? And I was the only person who, they said the reason that they gave me a call back was because when they asked me what book I was reading, I started talking about the book and I looked really sad. Like I was talking about how sad the book was and I looked sad.
Yeah.
And then when they asked the desert island question, I was the only person who described how I would eat my sister. I literally, I was like, my sister, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Wow. I didn't know Disney was that brutal. I love it.
Like, who is this weird kid? Like, we should keep her around a little bit longer. And it was a year and a half of auditions. It was a year and a half.
Just call back, test, call back.
Sometimes you wouldn't hear for like, I think there was one gap between auditions where it was 6 months. Wow. And I just got on with my life because it really, I don't think we had any idea of how big it was until a year in. They said, this is a movie, it's going to be shooting in Canada for 4 months. Wow. And my mom and dad were like, no, we don't.
Yeah, because you're going to miss school.
Yeah, going to miss school. They have 2 other kids. They're like, no. And the producers and the director kind of had to convince my parents to keep me in because at that point, I think they really, were interested in me. And then my sisters were the people who said to my parents, like, this is really cool. Why aren't you letting her do this? And we'll be fine. And like, just go for it and see what happens. And then it didn't end up being 4 months in Canada. It ended up being 7 months in New Zealand.
Oh, really? So it was kind of like Lord of the Rings, literally.
It really was Lord of the Rings. And so it just happened. And it was honestly just and I even remember getting the phone call. I was getting ready for school in the morning. And it really, when I tell the story, it really feels like it is one of those fairy tale stories. It's so, it's crazy.
So even right now to this day, can you remember the moment where you were like, it's a go?
Like it was a minute ago. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And I like remember where I was. I was in my kitchen. I just finished breakfast. I was in my like favorite dressing gown. They called me. It was our casting director, Pippa Hall, 2 of our producers, and Andrew Adamson, our director, and they were all on the call. And they told me, and I just ran up and down my stairs for like 10 minutes, just like up and down.
It was like the best Christmas in the world.
And then went to school and was like, guys, I'm going to be in a film.
Oh, you could tell them at that point.
I could tell. Well, I don't know if I could tell them, but I did. I was just like, I didn't know how it worked. And that's the thing is that, and I still think about this now, like it's funny how you said, how did you find that transition? I didn't even know. I mean, they were incredible when we first got out there. We had so much rehearsal time. We had like a month of rehearsal time.
Wow.
And we would play games and eat dinner together every night. And they were so invested in the chemistry of us kids, and we all got on so well, and all the parents and all that kind of stuff. But on the first day of shooting, I didn't even know not to look in the camera. The first thing I did was look straight in the camera. Wow. I did not understand anything about this world and how it works. And then about 2 hours in, and the first scene that we shot was, it's when we're on the train, it's when we've just been evacuated. Because another amazing thing they did was try and shoot as chronologically as possible, so
Oh,
that we,
really?
as kids, could go on the journey of our characters, which is
That's so rare and amazing.
so rare. And
yeah,
especially when it comes down to things like budget and location, all that kind of stuff, it was incredible. But I started crying about 2 hours in to my mom, and my mom was like, what is it, and I said, I keep getting it wrong, don't I? That's why they keep doing so many takes and they keep moving the camera around, because I keep getting it wrong. And the director had to come over to me and explain, okay, there are these things called takes, and then we have shots, and we have to do lots of different shots of the scene, and then we cut it together. Like, I did not understand anything and learned everything just doing it. You
went to a world-class film school at 7 years old.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm like 8 years old, and just, I mean, it's actually been a lesson that I returned to so much since then.
Yeah.
Like, it's so brilliant to be porous, to like be learning all the time. Like, you never know. There's nothing bad about asking questions. There's nothing bad about not knowing, because everything I know from asking those questions and just being like, I don't understand this. How does this work?
Totally.
So it was such a baptism of fire. It was, wow.
and great band name. I'm curious though, like during this like transition period from being in theater school and going to school to then moving to New Zealand, did you know at that point that you had signed on for 2 other films? Or was it?
No.
Wow.
I think that, I mean, I just also, when I think about how studio filmmaking has moved on since then, because we're talking about like 2004.
Before it was the norm.
Yeah, before, I think before there was an idea of optioning.
Yeah.
And also, if you're working with a kid, you don't really know what's going to happen. And you don't know how they're going to, grow up or anything like that.
So, sometimes people get recast, unfortunately. Yeah.
So and also they kept it a massive secret in terms of the press and everything. I remember there was one day about a couple of months in where we had the New Zealand Prime Minister come to set, and then it was a big deal that we were filming in New Zealand, and the film was being made, and we were the kids, and that was what was happening. But we were also just so protected. And I don't think there was ever an idea of, well, I certainly was never aware, this is a blockbuster franchise. Those 2 words didn't mean anything to me. And I think that that's brilliant, because if I had got that job now, the amount of pressure that I would be putting on myself to do a good job, like, I mean, you know what it's like. It's like a lot of the time you freak yourself out.
It's all psyched out. And
the minute you get the job, you start worrying.
Oh, and then especially when you know it's all going to be on a green screen and it's all going to be in post, like you could literally use the childlike wonder and imagination that you had.
Everything was like, I think another amazing thing was that so much of it was practical filmmaking. We did use green screen, but nothing like the extent that it's used now. So many of our sets were real sets.
Oh, so it's practical.
So much of it practical. They built out, like, they had a warehouse which was like 1.5 miles, and they just dug it up and put a forest in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I just don't think movies are really made like that now.
No.
And this was also the first movie we filmed before everything became digital as well. So
you shot film?
Short film, I think, because I remember, I think it was the second movie, I think it was Prince Caspian. That's when, the digital cameras were coming in.
Oh, got it.
And I think it exists as, when I do think about it in this way, I feel like it exists as kind of a little time capsule just before the cusp of a real shift of how we make movies now, those kinds of movies.
Yeah. We could obviously talk about these films for way too long.
I know.
to kind of summarize, a very intense experience. Talk to me about just like, as that first one is done and it comes out, do you then go back to school and be with your friends? And this movie, was that hard on you?
No, I think that the biggest thing for my parents was always, it was never that I was going to like become an actor. It then
Yeah.
became a thing of, I'm going to do these movies and then we'll see what happens. And
Yeah.
so for them, it was like, how do we keep things as normal as possible, as grounded as possible? So I went back to school. I actually had a great time for the rest of primary school, which I guess I'm trying to think what that means in America. I don't know what you call it in America, but like, because I feel like I was a much more confident kid then, and
Yeah.
I was better socially. I struggled when I got to secondary school because people tried to make me feel ashamed of it. And at the
Yeah.
time, I wasn't able, I like let myself be ashamed, like be made
No,
ashamed of it. Like, yeah, like getting picked on or something like that.
yeah.
Whereas now it was amazing when I went to university because I could look back on it and be like, oh, I did a really fucking cool thing. And
Yeah.
like,
I'm a badass motherfucker.
yeah, and I completely own that now.
Yeah.
That's so great. And now people say to me, wow, that's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. It fucking is.
Yeah,
go on my IMDb.
For sure. For sure.
That's amazing.
But I'm so grateful to my parents. I think that I very easily could have become a nightmare
Well,
with the scope of everything. And I didn't. And that's, I don't think. And that's because of my parents.
That's amazing. And
yeah.
once that whirlwind ended, you shoot 3 films that are these huge studio blockbusters.
Yeah.
You probably have, years of tours and press and junkets and
Yes.
premieres. At that point, how old were you when it was all done?
15. When we did the final junket, I was 15. So like over half of my life at that point being spent, making movies.
And where was Georgie's head at with acting then? Were you so like exhausted of it, or were you still enamored by it?
I completely enamored. And I think that was the point where I could decide where do I want to go with this now? And that was when I kind of went to LA and got an American agent and all that kind of stuff. And there was definitely a sense of, I want to continue on this path. And it was a no-brainer. It was an absolute no-brainer. Because once I got a taste, I was just like,
nothing else can fulfill it. Yeah. It's the most powerful feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is.
And obviously academia, was a big part of your life because you went to Cambridge. So was that always a goal for you to go to uni?
Yeah, it actually wasn't at all. I always wanted to just go straight into acting because also I loved it so much and I loved school, but I couldn't make those two fit in my head because I always had to give up one to do the other. And, like tutoring and stuff can be really tiring and all that kind of stuff. And then I did a film when I was 16 called Perfect Sisters with Abigail Breslin and Mira Sorvino. And when I met Mira Sorvino, I was just like, you are amazing. She was just so smart, such a talented actress. She was like, she had her kids with her on set and like being a parent whilst doing this really crazy material in this film. And we had dinner once and she went to Harvard and she has an Oscar, which to me is like pretty good combo.
Yeah, totally.
Like, pretty great.
Yeah.
And she said like, Georgie, why don't you want to go to university? Like, you're really curious about the world and going to university is a time to be curious. And like, you're smart and it's okay to say I'm smart and you shouldn't be ashamed of that or dumb yourself down.
Yeah.
And like, that's time for you to explore. And I came away from that dinner just being like, okay, I guess I'm going to uni then. Cause I was just like, yeah, it just clicked. And I was like, it was really all down to her. I had that conversation and yeah.
In your head with yourself and your team and your parents, when you decided to commit to going to university, was like, I'm not going to worry about this acting thing. I'm just going to focus on studying, or were you still going to kind of keep it open?
Well, Cambridge has these really long summer holidays. You get like 4 months. Our terms are very short. So in my head, I was kind of like, I want to go to uni and make the most of that experience. I don't want to go to uni and then drop out after 2 months because I get a job. But in my head, I was like, if the right thing comes along and the dates line up, then of course I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I did end up shooting a movie in the summer holiday between my second and third year. And it
The
was
music
really
festival one?
music, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really funny because we shot some of it at a music festival, and I was trying to research my dissertation at the time. So everybody was like around me, like listening to the music, and I was just like head in a book, just like, I was like stressing out. But I think my parents were really happy that I went to uni, and then they were particularly happy that I got into Cambridge, which was so crazy.
Yeah. What did you study?
I studied English. And the best thing about Cambridge was the theatre scene is so incredible. And I had never really done plays. I'd never been, so many people, they start in plays and then they do TV film, but it was the other way around. So it was really cool to have that time to like play and, like put a play together in 2 weeks, and you can fuck up and that's fine, or you can be amazing and that's fine, and no one really cares, and that's really great. And it was just really nice to have that time to just experiment and learn, and yeah, it's great.
And speaking of experimenting and learning, talk to me, you mentioned Georgie on the set looking in the camera, like doing live performance and not having the chance to do something like a take. What was that experience like, going from, having, takes and being able to play a scene out and take time to like, we got one shot to do this live and we can't start over? Was that it?
It was a really big shift. I mean, when we were doing Narnia, the first couple of films, we could do takes on takes on takes on takes, because we had time, we had the money. And then I did a few independent films, and obviously you get used to having 3 takes, 4 takes. So that was like a good period of transition. But I am such a perfectionist. And it's definitely difficult to have that sense of letting go when you're doing theatre and thinking, okay, it's not going to be perfect, and actually better.
Surrendering to the unknown.
Absolutely. Surrender is the perfect word. And there's so many brilliant things about theatre that you don't get from TV and film, and then vice versa. And I think the hardest thing for me was actually my voice. I was so used to being mic'd.
Oh, wow.
And so actually learning about projection and understanding that you don't have a camera in front of your face. You have to make sure that the person who is sitting at the back of the theatre is having as good of a performance as the person who is on the front row.
Yeah.
And just little things like that you can't know until you do it. You can't know. And it made me, then everything that I learned about theatre, I think also helped me be a better film actor, a better TV actor.
They both enriched each other,
Absolutely.
And so then when you graduated, did you have that desire to go to London and do the West End and the Old Vic and,
I mean, I moved to London pretty quickly out of graduating uni, and that had always been on the cards. But it took me, I didn't work. When I left university, I didn't work for a year and a half.
Wow. How did you boot, for all the actors listening, having credits and having all that, to going to this period of an absence of work? What did you do to stay inspired?
Because for me, I had been out of the game for a while. I had taken those 3 years, I'd gone to uni, and I kind of felt like I had to start from scratch, even though I wasn't. But I can absolutely say what it was, and I know why it didn't work. It was my confidence. My confidence was letting me down. I just didn't feel like I belonged in the industry anymore. I felt like I'd taken that time out, and that there was something had dimmed, that my opportunity had now gone. And I metabolized that to the point where I was going into auditions and not nailing them, because
you weren't in your head.
Because I was in so much in my head. And I felt a certain amount of pressure, because there's also a narrative of you work as a child and then you don't work as an adult. There's that kind of idea that people have. And I'm so interested in I was so worried about that, and trying to prove,
not creating a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. And trying to prove something to other people rather than just focusing on myself. And the thing I did to keep inspired, it was was try and work on that confidence and try and kind of, I mean, watch stuff that inspired me. And I'm a writer, I write as well. So try and write. But it was a weird time. It was definitely a weird time. For sure.
And would you say your film Tide that you wrote and directed, was that pretty much you getting your voice back and your confidence back?
You know, it's actually funny. It was kind of the opposite, because I shot that when I was in my second year at uni, and I did it with a bunch of friends. Yeah. And it was a really great experience when we were filming it. And then when it came to the post-production, it kind of, there was some issues behind the scenes, and there was stuff wrong, especially with like stuff that we hadn't realized when we were shooting it and all this kind of stuff. And to me, I kind of took it all as a lesson.
Yeah.
And the biggest lesson to me was I had let myself be told by other people that I didn't really know what I was talking about. And then I looked at it again and I was like, actually, I did know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And it actually, that time, which was the post-production process, which was that year and a half when I had just left uni, then it was, that part of it was me finding my voice, because it was me thinking, okay, this didn't turn out exactly how I wanted, but it's also something that I'm really proud of in so many ways. And what do I take from that going forward?
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest thing going forward was I know shit. I know shit. I've been doing
badass.
It
yeah.
Like, it's okay to admit that, and it's okay to say. And I think that I spent a very long time feeling like if I talked about my experience, then I would step on other people's toes.
Or read as cocky or arrogant or something.
Sure,
instead of just being like, hey, look, I had this experience. It is what it is. Like, I know what works, you know?
And what works. And also for me, I think it was very clear. It's always been clear to me very early on that I'm not drawn to things that are 100% conventional. I'm always drawn to things which are a little rough around the edges and do things a little bit differently. And so when I was like, I'm going to direct a short, I wanted to replicate that and do things a little differently. And I'm really excited. At the moment, I'm in development for my next short, which is super exciting. And
can you talk much about it, or?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
But,
I'm gonna have you back then. When
have me back. Yeah, we're gonna add that to this first exclusive.
Yeah.
But it's been really great to go into this process just feeling so at ease with my own voice in those conversations and in that sense. That's been a really wonderful realization.
And while in that year and a half, would you say your creative outlet was being fueled by your writing then? Like, yeah,
it was. And a lot of the stuff I was writing wasn't very good. Like when I look back on it now, like it wasn't. Yeah,
but we all feel that way about ourselves. I'm sure.
No, it really wasn't good. But I had to do it to get to where I'm at now, which is making better stuff. And it was kind of a time of like just feeling stuff out and trying new things, and it was all very private. It was all stuff that I wasn't showing other people, and it was just for me, and it was just me being on that journey of, do I want to do stuff like this, or do I want to write stuff like this? And I just watched this incredible like movie, and now I want to try to do something like that. And like, oh no, maybe I don't want to. And just kind of finding my voice and my style, and being in a kind of little incubation period.
Totally.
Which is really useful. So useful.
I did the same thing. You know, I took some time off and recalibrated. I got sober and I came back a new person. But I'm curious,
That's huge. That's such a huge. I mean, when you have those moments where you kind of zoom out and you make such a big change in your life, it's really interesting how as actors you can put yourself and your life on hold for jobs, for work.
And it only makes you a better artist by being more in touch with yourself.
Absolutely. And you have to reconnect. And actually the lockdown period, I think for a lot of people has been about reconnection with the things that maybe they've neglected in their life, which isn't work.
So then talk to me. So what came first, the Spanish Princess or the Game of Thrones thing that didn't end up going?
Yeah, so it was Spanish Princess came first.
Okay.
We shot the first series. I'm in like half the first series. I kind of have like a supporting role, and that was just a great shoot. And then I want to say that the Thrones audition was a month after.
Wow.
A month after. And the Thrones, it's so funny. Spanish Princess audition was like
a taste of the feudal reality that was
yeah. It was one audition. I thought it went terribly. I literally emailed my agent just being like, don't even check in on that one. No, it's not for me. And then got cast straight off that, which is so funny when you think about it. And then the Thrones thing, it was so funny. They said to me, I went in and I did a tape at a casting director's office. And then
were you going in for the show when it was airing? Actually, I could see you in a million.
It would have been, it would have been, the final series was going to air I'm trying to think, 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Talking end of 2018 now, and it was going to be 2019, the final series.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of the original show.
Yeah.
And I even like read the books and everything. So I was like, there's no way that I'm going to get this audition. And then went in for a recall, which was like a chemistry read with some guys. And I get in there and there's like 10 people in the room. There's like the showrunner, the producers, like execs from HBO, like the whole shebang.
Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah. People. Yeah. Like the Prime Minister. Like everybody's there.
Barack Obama.
And the interesting thing about that audition was that I could not even imagine getting that job. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get the job. And so I just didn't give a fuck. I was like completely balls to the wall, everything. I just did whatever like came into my head. I just played. I had the best time. And it was so funny. They told me afterwards that I'd already got the job off my tape.
No way!
And they were like, did you not know that you got the job already? Oh, well, we'd already cast you, and I was like,
that's amazing.
And it's really funny. I left, this is a good thing because this will hopefully make people feel better about themselves. When I left that audition, I went to my favorite crystal shop. I got a goldstone, which is it's like for career success or whatever. Yeah. And I slept with it in the palm of my hand for a week after that audition until I heard that I had got the role. And then I know that's like the weirdest, nerdiest thing, but I was
no, not at all.
Any placebo that I can use to make me feel better and make me feel like I have some kind of control in this process will be amazing. And at the time, a friend of mine, or one of my best friends who I went to university with, Emma Corrin, she was auditioning to play Diana in The Crown. And the day before she went for her final Diana audition, I gave her the crystal. And I was like, it worked for me for Game of Thrones and hopefully it'll work for you. And when they offered it to her in the room, she like had it in her pocket.
I'm going to need you to send this to me.
So this for me to like make the rounds because it's got some good juju.
For real. Some real Game of Thrones shit right there.
It was just a crazy process, but got the job.
Amazing. Well, then talk to me what we're here to talk about. The Spanish Princess, Meg Tudor. Is that a fun character for you to dig into?
It's honestly been the most incredible process. And I was very aware that she's not someone who people know a lot about. So it was really exciting to me to think that I will be the person to tell her story, probably for the first time in like a mainstream TV show. And
so this is airing Monday. So last night, so viewers, your husband just died. Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So Meg's in a dark place.
Meg's in a dark place, and I was playing a mother for the first time. And that was a huge, I'm obviously not married either, but getting my head around that idea of my husband's dead. I'm now the Queen Regent of a country.
Yeah.
And I have to protect my kids because they are now inherently in danger given
your
like
sister
in
and
court.
yeah.
And it was just such, again, it was such a crazy education just on the spot. Sometimes we would have 9 kids on set because there were so many kids in the show, all under the age of 9, some toddlers, some babies.
Wow.
And Meg is always getting off a horse or like in the middle of a screaming match. She is just, everything is 100 miles an hour. And it was so much fun to commit to the stakes of that and just really be in this crazy roller coaster like romp through Scotland. It's just been the most fun job.
Oh, you guys filmed it in Scotland?
We didn't get to film it actually in Scotland, which is probably good because I would have scared everybody with my bad.
No, it's great.
Yeah,
but was it a fun film though? I mean, obviously the sets are amazing and the Aristockers.
Amazing. It was fun, and it was so fun, and it is the best cast. We all just absolutely adore each other, and I was working with some really amazing Scottish actors. I was working with my scene partner in a lot of the show is Andrew Rothney, who's an incredible Scottish actor, and I had seen him on stage when I was younger and not known it was him, and like that we'd worked together, whatever. So that was so exciting, and he's just awesome. But it was challenging. It was a challenging shoot. It was. I mean, people will see when they watch the series that every scene, it does not let up. Wow. And Meg goes on such a journey through the course of the show, but it felt just incredible to be so worn out. It felt like I was so tired, but I was having the best time. And those are the really amazing jobs, the jobs where you like get to the end of the day and you're like, dude, I have worked today. I am exhausted.
You don't need to take a sleeping pill. You just
yeah. And the funniest thing about doing that job is that I have like terrible insomnia. So
me too.
Oh really?
Yeah. My Xanax prescription's right there.
Right there. And it's so crazy when you're working on those jobs because the call times are so early for the hair and makeup.
Oh, because you have to get in those period pieces.
The whole like dresses, everything, and the wigs, and I would just like look at my clock and it would be like 3 a.m. I'd be like, I have to get up in an hour and a half. And it's just like, but you're also just having the best time on the job, and it's so worth it. And and you're walking around those castles and churches and all these incredible locations, and you're like, this is my job. Like, I'm getting paid to do this. Like, how insane is that? Like, we really do have the best job in the world. It is the best job. Yeah. The best job. That's amazing. I know it's shit as well sometimes, but.
No, totally. But, for the American audience listening, I'd love to ask you a question because I think it's one of the most profound differences in entertainment culture between the UK and the US is in America, we mythologize our working class. And it seems like in the UK, they mythologize the aristocracy, and like something like Peaky Blinders was maybe the first to kind of invert that. Do you find, would you find interest in doing American projects that are different from a lot of the other things that you've done?
Absolutely. And I've been it's really funny you say that because I think Peaky Blinders was a really great main in the mainstream. I mean, I always go back to like Ken Loach. I think that Ken Loach really shone a light to the British working class. And I remember, I think I saw Kes when I was like 10 years old, and I was just thinking like, this is filmmaking. Yeah. But I've been really lucky to make two American independent films. And
one with Ella Purnell, the music festival.
The Ella Purnell was actually a British indie.
Okay.
One was called The Sisterhood of Night, which I made with Cal Penn and Cara Hayward, which is, and then the other one was Perfect Sisters with Mira Sorvino, and I love that world. I think that American independent film is so exciting and also just so different to the world of Narnia. Doing those films after just being in Narnia for all that time was a real education. And I think there's so many differences between like the English mainstream and the American mainstream. And I think with like with streaming TV now. There's
Yeah.
kind of this meeting of everything, because you now
Yeah,
have
like a show like Luther, you know, like
so
both
like
them.
Luther,
Yeah.
yeah, or Succession, which is
Yeah.
about, it's an American show, but it's made by British creators mostly, and it has this really kind of
Shakespearean.
British
Yeah.
humor. And I mean, it's the guy who made Peep Show. Like, it's like when you put those two things together, it's like, how does that work? But like, of course it works, because
Yeah.
I think that when you find that sweet spot between, you know, English culture, American culture, like that's the good stuff. That's the really good stuff.
Well, we need to get Georgie and Ryan on season 3 of Succession.
Yeah, basically. This is basically our Succession. Like, we just need to like start swearing at each other, and like we'll be fine.
That's
a boardroom meeting.
Well, I know you said you couldn't talk too much about it, but final few questions here. What's in store for you next?
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously been a weird time with the global pandemic that we have found ourselves in. But I can definitely feel the wheels are starting to turning with like auditioning, which is exciting. And then, so I don't have anything lined up acting wise actually. And then, but it's been really great to be developing my short, and I also have some other writing projects in the work, which is exciting. And this time has been really good to have time to work on that stuff. That's been really useful. But we'll see. Yeah. I hope that next year is going to look a lot more different to what this year has been.
I think it is. I'm manifesting it, and we're putting it out there. And it's so nice to have
it's so nice to be able to talk about Spanish Princess, and that's out for the next week. We're doing weekly episodes, and that's kind of nice to do it old school in that way, because I feel like I'm kind of,
it keeps the dialogue going. Yeah. That's amazing. And then final question, you know, Georgie, I don't mean to ask you having on, but you know, for all the actors around the world listening that just, you know, maybe are in a theater group and maybe aren't and just want to, you know, get in this, any words of wisdom you would have for them?
Oh my goodness, I imagine they would probably have more words of wisdom for me. I would say that you have to accept that it's going to be hard. I think that's the best thing you can do, because once you accept that you are going to have moments of rejection and disappointment, then you won't have that massive kind of crushing sense of delusion. You'll be able to accept it, to like metabolize it, to like learn something from it, hopefully, and just like go on to the next adventure. Like it was I think Bryan Cranston's book that he has on acting, he said that the day that he stopped seeing auditions as a means to an end and just started seeing them as an opportunity to act, that was the day that everything changed for him, because it was like, I am out of work, and so I get to have this audition and perform to these people, so it is an opportunity for me to do the thing I love the most, which is act. And that in itself is the best thing about it. And that's been really freeing, because I think that it's really good to dream big, and I absolutely think people should. I mean, I am a perfect example of the fairy tale happening, and I can't believe that I get to say that, but it's true.
I think we need to create an Instagram account for this gold stone, you know?
Yes, exactly. And just pass it around. Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, Emma still has it, so
you might have to send it my way, because you know it's bleak over there.
We'll get it over the Atlantic Ocean.
I had so much fun with you. You're amazing, and I would love to have fun. Is there any way people can stay in touch with like your writing and what's up with you? What's the best way? Instagram?
The best way is to keep your eyes on the skies, people. It's all gonna be happening. No, I'm on social media and stuff, but I'm really hoping that soon. I really hope that I get to make my own work soon, and that those things come together. And until
when
then,
you need an American, you know who to call.
Oh yeah. We'll talk. Because we've got to put together our Succession stuff.
Totally. We're gonna do it. Georgie, I love you so much. When you do your short, let me know. Come back on. Sure. I got so much love for you. The Spanish Princess. Let me articulate this right for the world. So in the UK, it's Stars iPlayer on Amazon Prime.
It's Stars Player, I think.
Stars Player.
Play. I never get it right. They're going to hate me. Sorry, Stars. Stars Play on Amazon Prime in the UK and other countries in Europe. And then on the Stars channel in America. I know that you were going to do it, and I totally sandbagged you, and I'm sorry. You probably could have.
I'm glad you did it, because you nailed it. Georgie, this was such a pleasure. I'm sending you so much love.
Oh, I'm sending you love too. Thank you.
And let's do it again soon, okay?
100%.
All right. So much love. Bye.
I am thrilled to announce that An Actor Despairs is partnering with a wonderful CBD company called Kind Farms. Everyone out there has heard of CBD. I started taking it a few years ago when I first started getting sober and to help with my anxiety. Sadly, as one can do, I was overtraining in the gym, and a friend recommended a topical and a tincture to help with the pain. I tried it. It was okay. However, recently, I was introduced to a product that has really changed my life. Not only has it helped me with anxiety, but I am stronger than I have ever been. I'm able to carry out lifts my body used to prevent me from doing. Kind Farm products have single-handedly changed my life athletically and personally. They utilize 100% local licensed farmers, organic cultivation, and CO2 extraction for superior CBD. Kind Farms is turning CBD to a kind alternative to pharmaceuticals. Let's transform Tobacco Row into Hemp Row. If you want to get involved, please reach out. Together, we can make a difference. You can use my code RYAN10 for 10% off. You can find them on Instagram at Kind Farms Inc., all one word. That's KINDPHARMSINC, and their website is kindfarmsinc.com. Once again, my code for 10% off is RYAN10.